It is here. How long will it last? I've got your full forecast coming up.
And never forget, it has now been 1 year since 2 Santa Cruz police officers were gunned down in the line of duty. Tonight, how officers Baker and Butler are being remembered. We have more from today's memorial.
Plus, a story of alleged police corruption that's getting national attention. We have the latest on 6 King City police officers who were arrested yesterday.
It's just about 5 o'clock. Your Central Coast News starts right now.
Now in high definition. Central Coast News right now.
It's something we don't see often, a story from the Central Coast that's making national headlines for all the wrong reasons. BBC, CBS News, CNN, and much more. Tonight, these 6 men are all out on bail, all of them officers, including the former and acting police chiefs in King City. Their arraignments on a list of charges ranging from embezzlement to bribery will begin this coming Monday. Good evening, I'm Mark Cotarobles.
And I'm Jasmine Veal. After Tuesday's pre-dawn sweep stunned Monterey County, people living in King City began calling the district attorney's office.
The investigation is leaving people with more questions than answers. Central Coast News reporter Cassandra Arsenault has been digging all day to get the latest.
The King City Police Station is open, but aside from these happy pictures of the police force hanging on the lobby walls, everything has changed, and none of the remaining officers are giving any statements.
We have police officers down there who are very good. Those officers should not be lumped together with anybody else who was arrested.
The district attorney's office is fielding calls left and right from concerned King City residents and even those who think they may be victims.
We have been getting calls. We've been following up on each of the calls.
But the DA's office can't discuss the specifics. So I went to Miller's Towing, whose doors are open and it's business as usual. They refused to go on camera, but did tell me the owner, Brian Albert Miller, was not arrested. And they say the truth will be coming out. For now, their 4 tow trucks don't seem to be going anywhere. Back in Salinas, Terry Spitz at the DA's office confirmed that Miller wasn't arrested, but he's not off the hook.
We've been in touch with his attorney, and we're assured that there will be a peaceful surrender. We do have the paperwork for an arrest warrant ready to go if we need it.
The DA did not want to release the details on the agreement they made with Brian Miller, but for now,
he can keep operating as far as we're concerned as long as he does it in a legal manner.
We tried to find Brian Miller today, but he's nowhere to be found, and though he hasn't been arrested, the DA says he's still being watched. We've been trying to get answers all day by calling the King City Police, talking to Miller's Towing, City Council, and the District Attorney's Office. No one's talking, but one thing's clear. This investigation is just started and there's lots of unanswered questions. We'll be trying to bring you those answers. In King City, I'm Cassandra Arsenault, your Central Coast News.
City leaders and the police department have a long road ahead to regain the trust of those they serve. Today, Central Coast News reporter Michelle Polito spoke to one woman who said she believes her son was a victim.
This woman was at the police station first thing in the morning after hearing the news about 6 officers arrested in an embezzlement scheme. She was too afraid of retaliation to show her face.
I'm here to see if I can speak to someone because I want to file a complaint against some of the officers arrested.
Aurora believes her son was targeted multiple times.
They would pull him over all the time, but because he had a license, they were never able to do anything against him.
The longtime resident said she feels like she's back in her native country.
In Mexico, we know corruption happens all the time, but we come to this country hoping things will be better, that there won't be corruption. But now that's not the case.
Now the challenge for city leaders is regaining the trust of the large Hispanic community that already had trust issues with police.
Immigration status is such an issue, and then it creates that fear of contact. And so, you know,
and then you add this on top.
And then you add this on top of it, and it makes it all the worse.
The city manager says he's in the process of bringing in an interim police chief to help run this department.
We've actually talked to a number of candidates and considered a number of candidates, some who have done, I would call them high-profile stints as interim chiefs of police in communities that have had issues.
Meanwhile, people like Aurora just want things to change.
I just hope from now on there will be officers who really want to help the community.
Michelle Polito in King City, your Central Coast News.
Well, the city manager says he will be able to name the interim police chief by tomorrow. Meantime, the League of United Latin American Citizens, or LULAC, has released a statement this evening. The organization said, quote, "We have always supported our men and women in law enforcement and will continue to do so. However, the fact remains that there are serious and problematic issues in America that continue to negatively impact communities of color, especially the Latino community's most vulnerable segment, the poor and undocumented."
Meanwhile, in Monterey, the King City case was the talk of the California Police Chiefs Association conference. That actually has been going on since Monday. Well, Central Coast News reporter Ricardo Navarro was there. And Ricardo, I mean, we have the King City interim chief and then former chief arrested. What are their fellow chiefs saying tonight?
Well, Jazz, the King City case was definitely a topic of discussion for many chiefs, not only from the Central Coast, but as far as Southern California. Now, Salinas Police Chief Kelly McMillan did not want to comment about the arrest. His department was one of the agencies involved in arresting the officers. But I did catch up with Soledad Chief Eric Sills, who has worked closely with the King City Police Force and says he will continue to share resources. As for King City and how it affects the image of local police,
I think that's an isolated incident, and I personally have never seen it when I was in King City, and nor have I seen it in any of the other cities when we've been there.
But Hollister Police Chief David Westrick took to Facebook yesterday about his disappointment. Today, he told me why.
I thought it was just despicable, and I was really upset that someone could do that to the community they served. I just, you know, I know that no one's gone to court yet, but, you know, it's still... It's a stain on all of us who are out there trying to do the best they can for their community.
Soledad Chief Eric Sills also tells me King City has not reached out to his department for help patrolling the streets, but they are willing to help. Coming up at 6, I get reaction from the state's Attorney General about the case. She was also at the conference. In the Content Center, Ricardo Navarro, your Central Coast News.
For more information about the investigation into these King City police officers and to see their mugshots, just visit KIONrightnow.com. And remember, for instant coverage, you can always follow Central Coast News on Facebook and Twitter.
A quick mention here about a silver alert, which has been activated out of Santa Cruz County. Paul Welch was last seen getting off a bus near the Metro Center in downtown Santa Cruz. Welch suffers from medical conditions and may become disoriented. So if you see him, please call 831-471-1121. Family, friends, and fellow Santa Cruz police officers gathered today to remember two of their own. 1 year ago today, Elizabeth Butler and Loran Butch Baker were killed in the line of duty.
The two detectives were on a routine follow-up call at the home of Jeremy Goulet. Goulet opened a fire on the officers. Once they were downed, Goulet took their guns and fired more rounds, killing them both. Now, Goulet was soon confronted by more officers. Following more gunfire only 1 block away from the original crime scene, he himself was shot and killed. Today in Santa Cruz, those at the memorial not only mourned the loss of the two officers, but also celebrated their lives.
Central Coast News reporter Jake Reiner was there and has more on the emotional response.
The events of February 26, 2013 marked the single darkest day in the history of the Santa Cruz Police Department.
And February 26, 2014, an anniversary marked with raindrops and teardrops. They came to remember Loran Butch Baker and Elizabeth Butler. On one side, Santa Cruz police officers. On the other, a grateful community.
It is especially this commitment that defines our character together. And that is where we hold dear the spirit of Butch and Elizabeth. That is how we have them with us forever.
For Ana Salcedo, it's personal. Before her death, Detective Butler was investigating a case involving custody of Salcedo's son.
We actually had a meeting that evening. She was killed at 6:00 p.m. and I had been waiting for a telephone call, and I had not known she was killed.
Butch Baker was Colleen McMahon's training officer. She was on duty the day he died.
Butch came on the radio and said everything was okay, and then very shortly after we got a call saying that shots had been fired, not from Butch but from a neighbor, and then the whole world just changed right there, right that minute.
And 1 year later, friends, family, and colleagues have adjusted but haven't forgotten. Not the officers, not how much they sacrificed.
Butch and Elizabeth, thank you forever.
And Jake Reiner joining us here on the desk now. I mean, for so many people, it's so fresh in everyone's mind still. It feels like it just happened yesterday.
Yeah, and for myself, I wasn't here last February, but all you had to do was attend this memorial to really realize how important it was to these Santa Cruz police officers and why they honored these officers so well.
Yeah, you got that sense there from watching your video. I mean, just sitting here on the desk 1 year ago, our role in the media, I mean, hard to believe a year has gone by. Chief Vogel, we saw him there in your story. He did something that kind of stuck with you.
Yeah, Chief Kevin Vogel had all these Santa Cruz police officers take off their badge and replace it with a memorial badge designed by the Police Officers Association so he could retire the badges of Butch Baker and Elizabeth Butler. On the badge was their badge numbers as well as the end of watch, February 26, 2013.
All right, Jake Reiner, thanks for that. Coming up this evening on the news at 6 p.m., it's their first family interview since Santa Cruz Police Detective Butch Baker was killed. Our Brooke Holmquist sat down with Baker's wife and daughter. She also spoke to his son Adam, who has made what many call what may be a surprising career choice. That story tonight on Central Coast News at 6.
All right, so NASA is using its space technology and imaging to help California monitor its severe drought. Check this out. This is Folsom Lake near Sacramento. In 2011, the lake was at 97% of capacity. Well, we want to show you last month, which is going to stand at 17. Look at this, 17% of capacity. What a difference between the two. Let's go to our meteorologist, Dan Cianca, in for our Norm Hoffman tonight. Dan, of course, this rain is certainly helpful. You know, you woke up to the raindrops this morning and throughout the day, and there's even more on the way.
Yeah, we've got several days in a row of precipitation as this strong 1-2 punch winter storm really arrives here on the Central Coast. We're watching rain moving back into the area tonight. In fact, after some morning showers, another heavier band of precipitation is moving into the area. Let's see if we can look at our satellite and radar picture. That first band coming through, as you can see earlier. Now we're seeing that second band coming in this evening. It will stick with us through the overnight hours. A closer look showing some embedded heavy precipitation. No lightning or thunder this evening so far, but we have seen some heavier rainfall at times, and that rain will probably stick with us through the overnight hours and start to taper off tomorrow. But like I said, there's another storm on the way, and that one could actually bring more in the way of stormy weather and rainfall. And I'll have details on that in my full forecast. That comes up in a few more minutes.
Dan, thanks for that. Make sure when you're out there driving in these rainy conditions that you're doing so safely. Our photojournalist, Brad Baker, got this video for us using his dashboard camera earlier today, something we have not seen for a while as far as how heavy this rain was. Central Coast News reporter Sydney Daniel got a chance to ride along with a California Highway Patrol officer and saw what can happen if you're not paying attention on wet roads.
On the Central Coast, rain means slippery roads and often accidents like this.
We're out here with a property damage only collision on Echo Valley Road at San Miguel Canyon Road.
CHP officer Jaime Rios says when it rains, drivers forget to watch their speed.
We do believe that the vehicles that were involved were traveling too fast for the wet roadway conditions, may have slipped.
Officer Rios says when the weather changes, so do the road conditions, and you need to change the way you drive.
Anytime it's raining, that is not an ideal condition to be driving a motor vehicle, so motorists need to slow down anytime it's raining.
And whenever it rains like this, visibility becomes an issue too, and that is not just for your safety.
Whenever you're driving and your windshield wipers are working, you are required to have your headlights on. And the important part of having the headlights on is not so that you can see, but that other cars can see you.
With more rain on the way this weekend into the weekend and more wet roads, a little extra thought while driving can help keep you safe.
Good advice.
Sydney Daniel there reporting. Just take your time, be safe, and of course, don't forget the umbrella. Coming up here this evening, could there be a downside to taking all of those selfies?
Such an odd study, or I guess relation, that we're going to find out with that one. Plus, why a woman says her eyewear caused her to be attacked in a San Francisco bar.
This is Central Coast News, now in high definition.